Hi, welcome back to Missouri Crooked Barn Homestead, formerly Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and we are doing a second pass on our garden right now. You can see our garden is quite huge, and I'm just sitting down underneath a tree at the moment in the shade because it feels so good. And I have been working my butt off, to be honest. And we're adding amendments right now. I'm adding in some potting soil and some garden soil. That's all I'm adding to my garden. A little bit of vermiculite and some perlite that I'll dust over it and then till in. Because you can see that soil. That soil is rich and beautiful and dark and ready to go. So it should grow quite a lot of stuff. Again, we are in northern Missouri now. We moved from Cheyenne, Wyoming over a month ago, and we have joined the area of Milan, Missouri, spelled like Milan. And we still have quite a bit of cleaning up to do, but at least we got our garden started. We are going to plant potatoes today. If I can get enough time in, maybe some beans and corn, and then we'll go from there because we are a little bit behind. We are at Memorial Day weekend now. This is Sunday before Memorial Day. And that means we are behind because the growing season here in Milan, Missouri, and northern Missouri is Garden Zone 5A, 5B, except that it is a lot longer growing season than what I had in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So we usually here in Milan have a growing season from mid-March all the way through to early November sometimes. And that is my guineas in the background. They have spotted something and they are letting everybody know about it. They probably had a bird fly overhead, to be honest. But every once in a while, they do see something that is important. Or they may have even seen a cicada because we have cicadas going nuts right now. I wish I had one right here near me. I would show you, but there are little casings of cicadas everywhere. If you want to see those in the grass, they are all around me, and they're up on the fence posts, and they're on the house, and they're flying around. And I want to remind everyone that cicadas don't do any damage. I've seen a lot of mention of, oh, what are we going to do? The cicadas are out. Cicadas don't eat anything while they are out. Their entire purpose of coming up out of the ground once every 7 years, it's actually different types of cicadas. Ones are every 7 years, some are 14 years, some are 16 years, and some are 21 years. So they wait that long before they come up out of the ground. And then they make this call that you hear all around us right now. And that call is for a mate. And then they mate, and then they die off, and then they basically lay their eggs in the soil, and there you go. It's just a cycle. But they don't really eat anything on when they're out. So there's no worries with them attacking anything. They just fly around, they make noise, and they make great snacks for the chickens. The chickens have been enjoying them. So one of my chickens over there right now, getting ready to climb in the garden. We are fencing our garden off. It is a very large garden. We're at about 40 feet wide and maybe a little bit more, 45 by about 75 feet long. So we widened it up just a little bit, and we have just been working and working and working on this garden to make it nice and soft and loose soil at about a 12-inch to 18-inch base of soft soil. And then I've just been, in the meantime, when I take a little break, sitting here listening to the birds sing and looking at the new baby birds that are out. We've got baby robins all around, and there's bluebird nests all around in the trees, and we've got bluebirds that have been coming out, and just all kinds of things going on. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you guys. We've been doing a little bit of foraging around the property because we know we have some fruit trees here. We just don't know what kinds. So we have been going around. We know we have crab apples, and there's two different kinds of crab apples. There are the kind without the thorns, and then there are the kind with thorns, mostly with thorns. So if you don't know about crab apples, most of the crab apple trees have thorns, and they are about an inch, inch and a half, sometimes 2 inches long, sort of like locust trees. And that's what makes it so difficult to harvest crab apples and why people don't use them so much. Plus, they will make you sick if you don't properly process crab apples. So anyway, I wanted to show you a couple of things that we have spotted while we have been looking, and there's a view of the back of the house. So let's go take a look. I think that we have some plum trees. So you can see this tree here, and it is absolutely loaded with fruits. And there is the leaf pattern here. But we believe that this may be a plum tree. Could be an apricot tree, but I think it is a plum tree. The apricot leaves are a little bit longer and pointier. And of course, the plums that are on the lower limbs are a little bit smaller than the ones that are up higher. We've got much larger ones up there, and they seem to just be getting larger and larger all the time. But if you know what this tree is while it's still green, let me know. Oh, and here's a cicada, just to remind everyone. You can see my hand, there's the cicada. They are actually quite pretty in my mind. They have red eyes, gold wings, and this one is just, there it goes, flying off. So they're all around us, and they are just landing on us and everything, but again, they are perfectly harmless. They don't do anything. But here is the plum tree that we believe is a plum. But if it isn't, let me know. I've heard mention here in Missouri about something called a cherry plum, which may be smaller type of plums. And then when I was back in Tennessee, we had something we called hog plums. And those were a much smaller variety of plum as well, but they were absolutely delicious. We used to go and just get them off the trees and just eat them. They were absolutely delicious. We love them. And I am hoping that this is a plum tree, because I can imagine all kinds of things that we're going to do with these plums. And then I'll show you another tree that I came across. And it's actually been a couple of trees that we have found on the property of these. One of the trees is in really bad shape. We've also found out we do have gophers. If you see these mounds right here in the ground, these are gopher mounds. And we are in the process of getting traps for the gophers. We think we've only got a couple of gophers right now, maybe only one, because we've only seen those mounds a couple of times, and it's only been a few, and then it disappears. So here's another mound a little bit larger, and another mound over here. And if you don't know anything about gophers, gophers actually travel in about the same area. So once you start seeing these mounds erupt, that usually means that they're going to be stuck to this area. They won't really venture that much farther because they're pretty territorial. So I don't have any worries right now with them getting into the garden per se, because they're not anywhere near it. So here's one of the trees that we found yesterday, and there's a cicada on a limb, if you can see that. But we also found out that we have mulberries. So if you can see those mulberries there, I'm not real sure you can. This one only has a few because it's a new one, but let me show you a much larger mulberry tree. In fact, I've never seen one this big. And before we get over there to the big mulberry tree, I wanted to show you that we also have blackberries, and they are absolutely loaded. And we just have them all over the property in different places. They're not really branched out into our yard or anything like that. They're pretty much on the outer perimeter of the property. But we do have loads of blackberries that we'll be able to pick. I had seen them blooming, but I wasn't sure whether they were wild roses or if they were blackberries, because they do look very similar, even though the wild rose leaf pattern is a little bit smaller. And we do have some new canes that are coming up, so we may harvest some of those canes. But these are the thorned varieties, so they're going to be interesting to try to harvest from. I've had to harvest raspberries and blackberries before, so I'm not too worried about it. But you can see that they are just absolutely full of blackberries. I wanted to give everyone a quick listen to all of the cicadas. There are tons of cicadas in this tree up here. I'm not sure that you can see them. They're a little far away, but there are just hundreds of them all along the branches because this is a much smaller leaf variety of tree, and I think it's easier for them to fly onto. So there are just loads all the way down the trunk of cicadas. And then of course they get into the grass and things like that as well. And these trees seem a little bit more susceptible. Again, they are just a smaller leaf variety. You might be able to see some of the cicadas flying around. Here is their casing, so when they erupt, sorry about that. It's a little bit hard to see my phone. There was one flying around. And here's a couple of them up on this branch. So there's just cicadas everywhere. We've got apparently the largest eruption of cicadas that there has been in a very long time, at least. So here, this massive tree, which is actually two trees, looks like at some point this tree had split, probably either from a lightning storm, maybe from tornado, or maybe it just got damaged in some other way. And it is a mulberry tree. So look at all of these mulberries, and they are getting ripe very quickly. We had a few of them yesterday. They're not in very good shape because the tree, like I said, has a lot of damage on it. Some of the mulberries further back into the bush are a lot bigger and better, or into the tree. So you can see all those mulberries up in there. Just loads and loads and loads of mulberries. And I will be harvesting those as they get darker. We've only had a few of them so far that have ripened. I'm going to try to get further up into the tree to see if we can get more, because as you can see, it would be easy to climb it with it being basically split off. And if this tree does go ahead and fall, because it's really extremely old, then it will go ahead and continue to grow, because this is actually a sucker off of the tree. So we're considering maybe just going ahead and sawing this tree on down because it is so damaged. There's a lot of places in the tree that are just not good, that it has holes in it because of the damage that it had gotten before. Like you can see those limbs there, those limbs are enormous. And someone knew this was a mulberry tree because they tried to prop it up to keep it from falling over even further. So you can see the braces in there. And they even tried to brace it with T-posts, which obviously would not work. But it looks like it's about to lose that limb right there. And then this one here. And it did have a tree house in it at some point. You can see a plank up there. There's actually like a stairs that's going down through there, and they had a little tree house in it. But this again is a mulberry tree, and it's full of mulberries right now. And we're going to try to salvage as much of the tree as we can because it's just so old. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to date it. The largest mulberry trees I have ever seen in my life have not been even as big as maybe a fence post. So for this one to be so large is just amazing to me. But again, you can see the mulberries in there in different spots. And of course, they are much larger when they get over your head. And I'm hoping to get some before they start falling, because it's really hard. They fall. And you can still pick them up off the ground and they'll be good, but it's just difficult to get them. Another thing that we have found out about this property is that the conservation has been trying to get quail repopulated, wild quail. So we have bobwhite quail, I found out, And we have those in Tennessee as well. So I've been listening to them calling out that little bob white that they call out in the evenings and in the mornings. And we've been talking back and forth with them. And we've actually gotten them to come into the yard. So it would be interesting to have them being closer, because I just think it's a neat thing. But let's look. This is the back of the property. You've seen the front of the property a lot already, but this is the back. And there is nothing for miles. The closest neighbor is way out on the other ridges over there. And it's not even a neighbor, it's just a barn for cattle. People grow a lot of Angus cattle here, as well as some dairy cattle. And you can see the grass is just amazing here. We could go ahead and cut hay. Unfortunately, we don't have a tractor or apparatus to cut hay, so we're actually trying to find someone in the local area that will come and cut the hay, and then we will keep a portion of the hay and give them the rest, because there's 7 acres of hay here, and it's just absolutely beautiful, beautiful hay. And I believe this is the wild rose that I was talking about, or I think they call them hedge roses here. But I don't think this one is a blackberry, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise me. I guess we shall find out, but I think this one is actually a wild rose. It does smell like roses, but it is just full of bloom right now. And more cicadas. Anyway, that's a little bit more about the property, and I will show you more as I find more as far as fruit trees and things like that. We've got a lot of silver maples, and I'm not real sure what those trees are that the cicadas seem to be attracted to. They don't really have fruit on them or anything, and I am not sure that you can see these, but again, there are just hundreds of cicadas on this tree. You can kind of see them flying around, I hope. But it just amazes me how many there are. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out. And look at that view. We'll see you on the next one.